Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. Means we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And 2 hours until it's weekend time for the Hunt Palmer Show. Lock us in. We've got a ton to do. Preston Guy, as always, 15 minutes from right now. We'll check in with him on LSU football. LSU in Florida, number 2 in the country tomorrow. From the Assembly Center, I'll preview that one. Teams are canceling spring games all over the country. Why are they doing that? I'll talk about it at the end of the hour. There are reasons that Matt Rule laid out, and then I checked with someone to kind of see, like, what's the deal? And there are some other thoughts about what may be going on here in the world of college football. So let's get to that at the end of this hour. Certainly got to preview LSU's baseball weekend, and I use air quotes because they're going to play 1 today, 2 tomorrow. Sunday they will not play, but they'll be back in action on Monday. So lots to talk about from that perspective. The Athletic has a story out talking about what transfer portal classes are under the most pressure. We'll discuss that. So lots and lots and lots to do. Appreciate you hanging out with us as your work week comes to a close. Let's do things the way we do it every day. That starts with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Kellen Moore has his coordinators. Yesterday we found out that Doug Nussmeier would be joining him as the offensive coordinator. Today we find out that Brandon Staley will, in fact, be the defensive coordinator. These are the two names that surfaced immediately when Kellen Moore's name popped up for the Saints job, and now we understand that that is how things are going to go. Y'all understand from a big picture perspective what these two hires mean. The offensive coordinator under Kellen Moore is going to help run Kellen Moore's offense. The defensive coordinator under Kellen Moore is going to handle one side of the football. This is not unlike at all Sean Payton for his time in New Orleans, not unlike at all Dennis Allen in his time in New Orleans. You, for the third straight time, have a coach whose expertise is very much on one side of the football. The other side of the football carries some more importance in terms of staff choices. So let's start with defense because we feel like that's the most important thing, the most important hire that Kellen Moore is going to make, and that's where Brandon Staley joins the fold. I told you when Kellen Moore first became a real threat to take this job that I felt like it was important for one of his coordinators, likely the defensive coordinator, to have had some head coaching experience. I don't know if that was going to be Brandon Staley. I threw out the name Ron Rivera, who certainly isn't linked to Kellen Moore in any way, but he's been a head coach. He is a defensive guy. And so you look at Staley, and he fits that bill, even though he is fairly young. He's a 42-year-old head coach. I like Brandon Staley's resume just because, I mean, he started with his hands getting dirty. I mean, this is a guy who became a grad assistant at Northern Illinois, coached the defensive line at St. Thomas in Minnesota. He was at Hutchinson, where he was an associate head coach and defensive coordinator, was a grad assistant at Tennessee, worked through some small stops at John Carroll and James Madison before he finally got his shot in the NFL. He coached outside linebackers with the Chicago Bears for a couple of years. Then he went to the Denver Broncos and coached outside linebackers. Finally, Sean McVay made him the defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams, and he spent 1 year doing that, and the Chargers scooped him up as a defensive coordinator. That was at the point where everybody was jumping into that McVay tree, trying to pillage anything they possibly could, and the Chargers went with Staley on the defensive side of the football. Now, his run as the head coach at L.A. with the Chargers wasn't great, but it wasn't like an absolute debacle. They went 9-8 the first year. They went 10-7 the next year and ended up in the playoffs, and they lost to the Jaguars in that playoff game. And then he got fired in 2023 after a 5-9 start. Like, yes, there were questionable decisions made. Yes, you can pick it. I'm not trying to defend entirely Staley's run in Los Angeles with the Chargers. There were certainly mistakes made, and some that were really magnified on given Sundays in the NFL. You had a lot of talking heads that were looking, going, this guy's in over. I get it. But, like, they did win some games. It wasn't just a complete grease fire. He had some issues on the defensive side, which is his side of the ball. late in his tenure there, but I think that he has proven to be an innovative defensive mind. He has proven to be someone that a lot of organizations have trusted to be a part of their organization. Sean McVay certainly did. Kyle Shanahan certainly did. So I think he's a fairly respected name in the sport. I think he brings an expertise on the defensive side, and I think this is a quality hire. I think that it's an interesting dichotomy, an interesting relationship between one, Moore works for Staley, now Staley works for Moore. But again, you're talking about guys who spend time in different meeting rooms on different sides of the ball trying to accomplish different things. So I think largely, now I can't certainly speak to this, but largely you've got a situation when Brandon Staley is the head coach of the Chargers. He's checking in on the offensive game plan. He's really hands-on with the defensive game plan, and Kellen Moore's kind of doing his thing for a year. You come back in this situation in New Orleans, Kellen Moore's going to be hands-on with the offense and that game plan. He's going to check in on the defense and see how that's going. So in a way, you're kind of still working the same, even though one guy's got different title on his door and a little bit higher salary than the other, and then that flips. So I think this is a quality hire. I think that this makes a ton of sense. What cannot be argued is that Brandon Staley does have work to do here as far as helping a unit that has really slipped in previous years. The Saints this past season on defense, which we thought would be the strength of the team, we thought would be kind of the rock. You're going to bring Clint Kubiak in and try to revitalize the offense, but the defense is good. Like, that's what we're talking about in August. Well, you finished 19th in scoring defense, 30th in total defense, 27th against the pass, and 31st against the run. There was nothing the Saints did well on defense this past year. Y'all know about the age, you know about the salary cap, you know about all those things. They've got to overhaul the defense as well. So this is not a situation where either side of the ball is coming in with a lot of stability. So Staley's got some work to do from that perspective. Offensively, we go to the other side of the ball, and I told you this. Kellen Moore's offensive coordinator needs to be someone he trusts and someone who, quite frankly, thinks like him, because you want to be on the same page. Kellen Moore is going to call the plays. He's going to be instrumental in the game plan. What you need from an offensive coordinator is an extra set of eyes to help. That's the same way that Pete Carmichael helped Sean Payton, and you didn't necessarily want him to be calling the shots. Maybe that's the case with Doug Nussmeier as well. Look, Doug Nussmeier's stops as an offensive coordinator have been a little bit uneven, and a lot of it's been in college, quite frankly. So it's a different world than it was when he was calling plays 15 years ago in Tuscaloosa or 10 years ago in Gainesville or whatever the case. Like, it's just a different world in terms of the type of offenses people run. He's doing this thing in college. Now this is the NFL. I don't know that going back through Doug Nussmeier's credentials and ranks as far as his peers 15 years ago means a heck of a lot. The game just has changed so much. But Kellen Moore has worked with Doug Nussmeier, and if he feels like Doug Nussmeier can look at tape and see it the same way he does, and look at defenses and see it the same way that he does, and feel like there are core values of the offense that have to be executed the same way Kellen Moore does, then that works. Nussmeier's going to work with the quarterbacks, whoever that is, we don't know yet, and he's going to be an extension of Kellen Moore, who's ultimately the top of the food chain here. What the Saints have now is a pretty young staff. They've got a staff that I think was built with offense in mind first, and now you'll bring Staley in to kind of run the show on the defense and make sure that he's got the guys that he wants in place on that side of the ball. Because this is what we talked about earlier this week. Like, Kellen Moore's hires started offensive line run game coordinator, quarterbacks coach, now offensive coordinator. Like, he was stacking the offense first. Then he went and got Staley, and I think he's going to let Staley kind of do his thing. He's worked in a lot of organizations, been a head coach, got a lot of relationships in the league. You let him do his thing on the defensive side of the ball. And then you try to push off the dock with what's next. And I think what's next ultimately is Derek Carr. I think this is the natural order of progression. Head coach, fill out his side of the ball on offense, make sure that's in order. Get a defensive coordinator, let him fill it out. Then you move to roster, and roster starts at quarterback. You make a decision on quarterback. You see what that means for your cap. You go into scouting. You got to scout the combine coming up here. You got to get ready for the draft, and you've got to have one of the best drafts the Saints have had in 15 years this year. That's where it has to start for this regime, because by the time you get down the road, you can't have 2 bad drafts and then hit on the third one. You're too far gone. It's got to start now. There are too many holes on the roster, too many issues that have to be dealt with, too many contracts that are moving out that are going to have to be replaced in the next 2 years. You got to start now. So you're doing things in a natural progression, but you got to make sure that you get it done the right way, and you got to hit it out of the park with player evaluation coming over the next 3 months, and that's where these coaches come into play. So that's our Genesis opening drive. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Our Friday shows brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. You're headed out to a Mardi Gras parade, headed to tailgate out at the box, got a birthday party, want to feed the office, any kind of bulk catering issue that you may have, Corks can handle it. They've got a fantastic team that can get you the big trays of crispy fried catfish and that jumbo Gulf shrimp. They can also do something for 4 or 5 people if you got a smaller tailgate like the big haul. Maybe you got a Hester-sized family. They can probably handle the big haul right there by themselves. It feeds 4 or 5 people. Check them out. They're on government between Foster and Jefferson. It's corksfishandshrimp.com. Corksfishandshrimp.com. We'll talk with Preston Guy, LSU football, when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. If you're a business owner and you feel like you pay a lot in insurance premiums, you're not alone. Have you explored a captive? Perhaps you're a fit. Maybe you're not. Got to be a fit. But if you are, has that been brought to your attention? Do you even know what a captive program is? If not, reach out to Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group to see if you're a fit. It's something that they do a lot of. You get put into a group. You got to make sure that your risk management is top shelf, and you can really cut into your insurance costs annually if you fit into a captive and everyone in the captive does their job. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, Jonathan Carbo and his team are certainly the people you need to talk to. Check them out at HighlandIG.com. Say, hey, I feel like we're paying a ton. I just want to know if we're a fit to jump into this captive situation. And he'll take a look at it, and if you are, great. If not, maybe there are some other solutions they can help you with in terms of mitigating risk, driving costs down, and making sure that your business is ultimately protected from risk. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your environmental impact to help protect our planet. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more. crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime. At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Friday shows brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Every week at this time, we go out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline and talk with Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. A little bit of LSU football. Preston, how you doing?
Good, hon. How's it going?
It's going quite well. I want to talk defense today with this LSU football team about to crank up the spring. There was some reports this week that Harold Perkins will be moving to the star position. There are some transfers they've brought in, specifically in the secondary. You got some defensive linemen that have got to grow up. So there's a lot to get to. I want to talk big picture first before we start to get to some potentially individual players. Do you feel like LSU is close to fielding a quote-unquote dominant defense?
Yeah, I do. I'm looking at this roster from top to bottom. You've got quality players in just about every position group. I think they've addressed almost all your needs in the portal, and we're talking about veteran guys with good film. I think they've got a job to do here, too. You've got a lot of talented pieces. Now you got to find homes for them. You know, for example, like Harold Perkins, I don't think there's anybody out there debating that he's a talented player. It's just you got to find a way to put him in the best position to succeed. And frankly, you've got to do that with 11 guys on the field at the same time where they're all in the best position to succeed, or at least set others up in positions to succeed. You know, and I have a lot of confidence in this coaching staff as well. I really do believe in this defensive coaching staff. I think this is a defense that if they're not a top 25 defense, I think you got to start, you know, asking some questions.
Let's talk Perkins first. Star, responsibilities, strengths, what the whole package. What say you?
Yeah, you know, Star's an interesting position because, you know, obviously you can get aggressive and put him kind of in the box for run support. You blitz him off the edge. But you also have to sometimes you got to man up and cover a slot receiver at that corner spot. You know, obviously a little more zone than man coverage in that spot. And Harold Perkins, frankly, for a linebacker, is graded out very well. I think, you know, he definitely has the speed to play some of these positions. But my overall thought on it is, well, we've definitely given him a look at linebacker, and it wasn't quite, you know, nothing overwhelmed you to make you think, well, we're going to LSU simply cannot survive without Harold Perkins, a middle linebacker. You tried him at edge rusher, and, well, at times he was great. I just think he's too talented a player to just use as a third down specialist. So I like that you're at least giving him a crack at this position.
Let's talk about the edge rushers. They bring in, you know, 3 out of the transfer portal. You got Relaford back as well, Carpenter back as well. How do you feel about LSU's ability to rush the passer off the edge?
Yeah, and Peyton coming back. I mean, he should be not coming back. He's coming from Florida State.
Yeah.
He should be a plug-and-play type guy. I like a lot. I love what you get out of Gabriel Relaford. He might not even be a starter. And then you have to look at guys like Jack Tyburn out of Florida. Does he play edge? That's what they've got him listed at for now as an edge rusher. But there was some talk maybe of him playing outside linebacker. I like – and look, they're bringing in a very talented Damian Shanklin, Jamari Butler, another guy out of the portal. And don't sleep on Dylan Carpenter. You know, we're starting to you look at him, and he is a specimen out of Santa Maria High School. He is very chiseled and physically developed. It's just you're wondering when's it going to show up on the field. A lot of guys that I could see being candidates to be great players on the edge rusher. I think they really did a good job addressing that, because coming off the season, that looks like it was going to be a gaping hole for LSU, where you kind of, I hope Carpenter and I hope what's his face Relaford are ready to step up, because you don't have much else there, and they did a really good job filling that. I think they're good spot there.
It's not a good story to tell because I can't remember who said it, but one of the young offensive linemen during camp last year said he really hated trying to block Dylan Carpenter. I don't remember who it was that said that, but you can see when you're out on the practice field, he's a big dude, just behind a lot of really good players last year. On the interior of the defensive line, how big a deal is Jacoby and Guillory coming back?
Massive. You just really hope that he's up to speed 100%. A lot of guys with injuries like that, they come back and they're overweight. They got to get reconditioned. You hope that he's up to speed. So look, you can't undersell what a fifth-year defensive player means for your program, especially in this age of the transfer portal, where it's just such a rarity, the experience. But, there's other players to like. Dominic McKinley came in very raw in fall camp. I remember looking at him in fall camp for the first time, and he would go right behind Jacoby and Guillory. And I said, boy, there's just a gaping hole in terms of how polished each player was. But toward the end of the season, you started to see why Dominic McKinley was labeled a 5-star. He got multiple sacks in games. You really like what you're getting out of him. Ahmad Bro, that's another player you have to like. He showed you some really good stuff in the bowl game and down the stretch of the season. I really think, they're bringing in a lot of other guys. Cider Mitchell out of Texas, who is a big guy. You talk about goal line reps. Love how you can situationally use him. Again, there's probably no rock star candidate at defensive tackle. There's no Glenn Dorsey that you're lining up out there. But there's a lot of guys I can see giving you serviceable reps. You just have to hope you stay healthy there.
Preston Guys, our guest, TigerBait.com. Talk LSU football every Friday at the beginning of hour number 1. You think DJ Pickett's going to start the opener?
I think so. I could be wrong, but he is very talented, long player, and there's certainly enough DBs to compete with him. I know on signing day, it looked like, or I guess when he committed, I should say, it looked like he was going to be your lone candidate back there. But, they've done a really good job hitting the portal and having guys that, he's going to have to compete with, But I certainly think that based off of what I've seen in his high school film and his measurables, I think he'll quickly climb above the guys we had out there, P.J. Woodland and Ashton Stamps. I could definitely see him beating them out. But now you're talking about Mansour Delane and Jakeem Jackson and a lot of very talented players that you're bringing in all of a sudden. It's good that this is a conversation, is what I'm getting at here. So, I think he's going to do what it takes to be starter day one, but I'm very interested to see what he looks like when he straps it out there in fall camp.
It's just one of those deals where you take a group of like 6 DBs / corners, and you just need 3 of them. You need half of them to be really good players. Like, you don't need everybody to be awesome. You need to have enough to where if like 3-4 hit, that you're in the right spot. Do you feel like Corey Raymond and the defensive backfield has done that?
Yeah, I talk about that all the time. It's like anytime you've got a player, you're rolling a die. It's just kind of, how many sides are on that die and what are the numbers? Are you going to hit what you need to roll? And that applies to returning starters as well, by the way. Technically there's a chance that Nussmeier takes a step back and he isn't that guy next year. Now, you're rolling a pretty good set of die to get what you need with Nussmeier. But it's all odds. And one thing I like is a team with a lot of depth. You give me 5 guys who you feel like you've got good odds to get an SEC caliber starter, guess what? You're probably going to be good at that position one way or another. Not to mention depth, just having the amount of guys that you have faith in. It also injury bug. If you've got 2 guys ready to play, one gets hurt, guess what? Boom. So you talk about guys who are candidates to be good players next year. You've got, you got your returning guys. You got, your Jordan Gilbert, your Deshaun Spears of the world. Maybe you get good reps out of them. What about C.J. Jim Coley? What about Tamarcus Cooley? A lot of guys that I could see having an argument to be all SEC type guys, plus all the corners we just mentioned. Yeah, I think they've done a really good job. I wouldn't be upset, though, if we looked up in the spring window and they added one more body to that defensive backfield where you're like, I could see him being pretty good. I wouldn't be shocked about that. But thus far, yes, I'm certainly satisfied with the volume of players that have good chances of being quality players next year.
I'm certainly not alone in my assertion back in August that Deshaun Spears would force his way into the starting lineup and be a starter by probably early October, and that just didn't happen last year. Did that surprise you, and how do you feel about him entering his second year?
Yeah, it definitely caught me off guard. Particularly, I don't think the reps he gave you were so bad that, you just needed to roll with the veteran guy who hadn't shown you anything in 4 years. He's at Ole Miss now, so we'll see how that pans out. I'll tell you what, that'll be a great parameter. Typically, players LSU loses to the portal, they go to lesser schools, and almost always they don't really do too much, right? And that means you're doing a good job with your portal with the guys you're losing. If a guy like that who couldn't do nothing for you for 4 years goes out and balls out at Ole Miss, that's where you got to start pointing some fingers at the coach. So, yeah, that being said, I think that we're definitely going to see some changes there, and I think they'll be in a better spot.
We'll talk offense next week, and then the week after it'll be spring football time. A lot of teams canceling spring games. Your feeling on that?
Yeah, I love me some spring football. But, my thing is why – yeah, I get why it's unappealing for the non-casual, non-junkie. It's a glorified practice, but I think ultimately it could just use some spicing up, not abandoning. And maybe if teams start to abandon their spring game, the NCAA will wake up and say, hey, let's let these teams roll out and play a G4 team. You know what I mean? Like, let's let LSU play Southern Miss, and then I watch how much interest goes up in that game.
It's Matt Rule says they're not playing because he thinks other teams are going to watch the spring game, find some second teamer that they like, and then go pay him $75K to leave or something. And he says they don't want that to happen, so they're not going to play a spring game. I found that to be fascinating and probably not true.
Yeah, I think Matt Rule says a lot of stuff.
Have a good weekend, Preston. We'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
You too, Hunt. See you soon.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, all your football covers. They got you over there at TigerBait.com. All right, we're rolling right along here. Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, LSU is going to host the top 5 team in the country tomorrow. I looked at Florida pretty extensively. It's a little intimidating. We'll talk about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every single new purchase at Genesis of Baton Rouge comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. 10 years, 100,000 miles. About as good as you're going to do in the industry. How about 3 years of complimentary maintenance? They can do that for you as well. Every single model, from the entry level to the highest end, from the sedan all the way to the SUV, they've all got the same perks. They've all got the same baseline safety features. It's a luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. Put Genesis on your list. When I say luxury vehicle, there are probably some brands that pop into your mind. Make sure Genesis is one of those. And get on by and see one of their brand ambassadors at their gorgeous store right there at Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. Stop in, say, I heard about you on Hunt Palmer Show. I'd love to get behind the wheel. They'll get you behind the wheel, and you will see that Genesis difference. You can start your process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, kind of see what you like, what you don't. Then get behind the wheel for a test drive. You can't stop in. They can come to you for that test drive as well. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Basketball Tigers are hot, y'all. Winners of 2 in a row. Here come the Gators.
They're playing their best basketball, Hunt.
It's when you want to be playing your best basketball. End of February, March starts. You turn the page, hear that CBS music.
Hey, look, all they got to do is win 5 in a row, and they'll be in the tournament.
That's true. If they do win 5 in a row, they will be in the tournament. That's an 8-win team. You'd be, 8?
Shoot, even if they win 4 of their 5, they might get in.
I think if they win 4 or 5, they'd be in. 4 or 5 against ranked teams, yeah. No issue, huh?
No.
There might be an issue.
Maybe.
I was looking at Florida statistics. Full disclosure, as you might imagine, over the last 3 weeks, I have watched less SEC basketball than I did in really December and early January. I still have a reasonable feel for the teams, the personnel, style of play. Like I watched enough when LSU was right in the thick of it to kind of understand, but I've kind of let go of the rope a little bit, as you might imagine, because I'm now consuming a lot more baseball stuff, and it just kind of is what it is. I'm trying to stay involved in the things that you want to be involved in, and I don't know that we're going to spend a lot of time breaking down. I don't know who Kentucky plays tomorrow. I used to have the Saturday schedule in front of me for Friday's show to kind of talk about it a little bit. I have no idea any of the other games in the SEC tomorrow except Florida and LSU. That's where I am from a basketball perspective right now. So I'm diving into Florida statistically, and I'm kind of like, God, this is a little better than I thought. And it should come as no surprise. They're number two in the country. You probably should figure out they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Florida's 23-3 on the season. They're 10-3 in SEC play. In the non-conference, you're talking about a Florida team that beat Florida State by 13, Wake by 17, Virginia by 18, Arizona State by 17, North Carolina by 6. So they were dusting the Power 5 pretty good in the non-conference. They've been great in league play. Their best wins, they're the only team to beat Auburn in league play thus far. They went to Neville Arena in Auburn and beat them by 9. They absolutely annihilated Tennessee by 30. 73-43. That's That's impressive. I don't care how you slice it. And they went to Mississippi State, went to the hump, and won by 13, 81-68. They've got 3 losses in the league. They lost at Kentucky in a thriller to open league play, 106-100. That was a track meet. I watched that one. I actually remember tweeting to that game going, this Florida-Kentucky game, not making me feel great about the next 2-3 months for LSU basketball. And turned out that was probably pretty prophetic. Then Missouri, they beat them 83-80. They lost to Missouri 83-82 for their second conference loss. The third one, Tennessee exacted revenge after that 30-point drubbing and beat Tennessee beat Florida 64-44. So in one of Florida's losses, they scored 44 points. In one of their losses, they scored 100 points. A little bit of a crossing of paths there. But it's a good Florida team. I mentioned 10-3. They're currently tied with Alabama at that 10-3 mark. That's 2 games behind Auburn, who is 12-1. But Auburn still has at Kentucky, at Texas A&M, and a home game against Alabama left. So Florida could get in the mix because they own that tiebreaker. But Florida does have a game at Alabama still left on the schedule. So likely Auburn's going to win the SEC, but Florida's still kind of in the mix to win the league. They're currently playing really, 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 really well. Florida has won 5 in a row, and over that 5-game win streak, they're making about 13 threes a game, shooting 42% from there, and they're averaging over a 5-game win streak 19.6 assists per game. They are assisting on 20 field goals a game, which is really, really good. They deserve a ton of credit. And I'm looking first at the offensive side of the ball. 8th in offensive efficiency, 8th in points per game, 8th in offensive rebounding, which we know can be a problem for LSU. They're 29th in assist-to-turnover ratio, which is phenomenal. Again, you're talking about 360-plus teams. They're 29th. And they're 29th in three-point attempts per game. Only Alabama shoots more threes than Florida, and Florida makes them at a really high clip. So that's all the offense that's really, really good. A lot of top 10 stuff in the nation on offense. Then you flip to the defensive side of the basketball. They're 9th in the country in defensive efficiency as well. They're top 35 in blocks per game. They're not relentless in terms of forcing turnovers, which is good. Now, as we've mentioned a few times, LSU in their last 4 games has not had a turnover problem. And that's against some of the better teams, Ole Miss being one of them. Certainly Oklahoma and South Carolina aren't, but LSU's keeping the turnovers to a minimum, and that's what they're going to have to do in this game. Here's my biggest concern for LSU, and you could suggest there are a lot of concerns, and I would be right there with you. But LSU is going to start 4 guards tomorrow. They're going to put 4 guards out there. What does that generally mean you want to do? Get up and down. Like, that's what 4 guards on the floor are generally going to do. It's just going to be their natural instinct and the way to play. Teams that slow it down are usually going to throw it down in the post and have somebody go to work that way. Guards want to run. Florida will run you to death. They will get up and down. They will hit shots efficiently. They will take advantage of your numbers. They'll get into your legs with depth, and that's what they want to do. They want to run. And I just think that's a bad plan for LSU. Now, LSU has slowed it down a little bit of late, and they're doing so by shooting some threes. Like, they're not trying to attack the rim. They're kind of getting into a dribble handoff style offense or running a high ball screen, and they're taking some threes. I honestly gave this like 10 minutes of thought, and I'm not James Naismith. I'm not Mike Krzyzewski. I'm not John Wooden. I'm not Greg Popovich, okay? But I'm trying to think about what makes sense based on style of play, personnel. Like, what's LSU's best shot here? And usually I can give you something of substance that would make some sense as to how LSU could hang around that's not shoot 80% from 3, have the other team shoot 11% from 3, or usually I can give you something that would suggest, hey, this is how LSU can really keep this close and make it a game. I don't have a great answer today. I'm sorry. It's a Florida team that is veteran. Walter Clayton is awesome at the point. He leads them in scoring at 17 points per game. He shoots 37% from 3 in conference games. He's been awesome. Like, they got Ruben Shinyulu on the block, who is just more physical than anybody's got on the roster, and he's going to be a problem on the backboards. Will Richard has been there forever and is really good. Thomas Hall has been good for them off the bench. He's shooting 83% from the line. They've got 6 guys in league play that average 10 a game, 9.7 or more, but basically 10 a game. 6 guys. So it's not like, we'll take him away. It's not like, well, slow it down. They're just a really good team, and Todd Golden deserves a ton of credit for that. Not just anybody can beat Tennessee by 30 and go to Auburn and win by 9. Like, Florida is national championship good. I think Auburn's national championship good. I think Florida's national championship good. I think Bama is probably good enough, although I think they're probably going to lose a game because they usually do over the course of a tournament because of their style of play. I don't trust Tennessee to score enough. Probably don't trust Kentucky to get enough stops. And I don't trust A&M to score enough. And those are kind of the top teams in the league. I don't need to talk about Missouri as a national championship team. I don't think Ole Miss is a national championship team. But you give me Auburn, Florida, Bama, and Kentucky, just toss one of those in there. Like, those teams are national championship good. I was texting back and forth with a buddy the other day. I said, I think my best shot at keeping the SEC from cutting down the nets is probably Duke. Usually, the last couple of years, you've had UConn as kind of a buffer. Like, they're so good that they'll probably beat whoever they need to beat. They're not as good this year. And North Carolina's a disaster. Virginia's fallen off the map. I don't think Kansas is as good this year. I look at the Big Ten. Like, Michigan's leading the Big Ten. Do I think they're that good? Duke is who I'm looking at right now to try to make sure the SEC doesn't get this done. And you're going to see a really good Florida team in the PMAC. Now, I think LSU this week has a renewed identity, feels a little bit more confident than they did 7 days ago. That's just natural. And I hope they come out and play hard in front of we'll see what the crowd is. LSU baseball is now going to play at the same time tomorrow because of the game being canceled on Sunday. So that may take, 1,500 people out of the PMAC, which is kind of a big deal. But I'll be frank, and I don't mean to be pessimistic or whatever. I think you all know where I'm coming from. I look at this Florida lineup, and I see experienced guards that make shots at the very physical front court play. I see a team that's 8th in the country in offensive efficiency, 9th in defensive efficiency. I see a team that's gotten beaten by Kentucky and Tennessee on the road in the biggest 2 venues in the league, and then a Missouri team that's played really, really well and played great against Alabama this week and scored 100. And I just look at LSU, and I go, I just don't know if you're in that class. In fact, you're not. But I'll be pulling for them. I hope they go out there and shoot the lights out and take care of the ball again and rebound and play a little bit more slowly and find a way with 5 minutes to go in the game to be in a 4 or 5 point game. That would be a win for LSU at this point. I just don't see it based on style of play, results to this point, statistics, trends. I think LSU's in big trouble on the backboard playing 4 guards. I think that LSU doesn't shoot it nearly as well as Florida. And I think the pace of this game may get to LSU. I don't know what the number's going to be. I would imagine somewhere in the neighborhood of 10.
It's 9.5.
That's not a terrible guess by me.
Pretty good.
And so I could not in good faith take LSU plus the 10. It just I can't. Maybe that makes me an idiot. I don't know what the odds on. In fact, I got some picks from him. He usually doesn't pick the LSU game. Let's see if it's on the list. It'll go on LouisianaSports.net. A little bit later maybe tomorrow morning. He does not have this game as one of his plays for tomorrow. So I'm not fading Jimmy here. I could not pick LSU plus the 10. Beck, could you take LSU plus the 10 and feel reasonably decent?
I wouldn't feel reasonably decent. I wouldn't feel bad about it.
No?
I can see LSU.
What's the path? I tried. I couldn't do it.
I think it's just going to be obvious. Well,
I think the easiest one would be Cam Carter scores 31.
Besides the obvious of that, I think if you can get big contributions again from Damian Collins and maybe Robert Miller can compete with Alex Condon and kind of slow down the front court, then maybe they can keep it close.
Condon is better, but Chinyelu is a bigger issue for me because he's chiseled out of stone.
LSU
and LSU has no one that looks like that.
No.
Every time I turn Florida on, he's crashing the glass. Like that guy against like Tennessee's bigs, that looks like the Pistons and the Timberwolves to me. They're huge. And LSU, Robert Miller and Damian Collins are not huge.
Yeah.
They're tall.
If LSU can shoot as well as they did against South Carolina, then they can stay in this game.
We'll see.
They have to.
I'll be pulling for them. But we'll see tomorrow at 5 o'clock inside the PMAC. Take a time out. Matt Rule says that he's canceling his spring game because players are going to be pillaged from his roster for scoring touchdowns on the second team. I've got thoughts on that, including some information that I got from a current college football coach and his thoughts on it. I'll share all that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I was on the website, One Bath and Closets, earlier today. You can give them a call. The number's right there on the homepage. It's 225-400-8005. 400-8005. They do some stuff that I don't talk about all that often, but they're happy to help you with, like vanities in the bathroom. When you think bathroom, I always talk about the tub to shower conversion and getting rid of the tub, putting in the shower, and that's kind of the more glamorous side of things. But they can also do vanities. They're more than happy to do that. It's not just glass walk-in showers or porcelain tubs or toilets. They can do the woodworking there with the marble and all of that there on your vanity. If you like to update that, your house may be a little bit older, maybe doesn't look as good as it once did, David Duvall and his team are happy to do it. They can do custom closets as well. There are pictures right there on the website that you can explore and see how you think that might fit into your home. David Duvall's happy to customize something to your exact specifications. So go to the website, see the pictures of those great work, read the testimonials from their satisfied customers. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at onebathandclosets.com.
Need service now? Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you same-day appointments for service, and we offer pickup and delivery of your vehicle from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. If you need sales and service, the crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. I think a lot of you probably headed out to the box this afternoon or knocking off work and excited to watch some baseball. That's why I put our baseball segment coming up in hour number 2. We'll talk about LSU baseball in 10 minutes. Get you ready for LSU in Omaha. 1 today at 4, 2 games tomorrow, 1 at noon, 1 at 5 o'clock, because Sunday looks like a potential washout here in Baton Rouge. So they'll get that one done. LSU will get a day off on Sunday before they play on Monday against Nichols, then travel to Dallas. They'll play on Wednesday against DBU before they go up to Frisco and have a 3-game set there at Riders Park in Frisco, just north of Dallas. So we'll talk baseball coming up in 10 minutes. Matt Rule, among others, has canceled his spring game up at Nebraska. Lincoln Riley canceled his at USC. Look up at Columbus, Ohio. Ryan Day says, we're not doing a spring game. It's becoming very, very common not to have a spring game. And it's not because of injury risks, not because schools are worried teams will see their offense and be able to game plan because ESPN's televising. No. Matt Rule says because there is tampering that is rampant, he doesn't want another staff to turn on the TV and see his second team inside linebacker and go, that kid looks pretty good. I'm going to call him and take him with NIL money. That's what Matt Rule thinks is going to happen. Now, look, I have been on record with this a lot. Football coaches, in my experience, and I'm painting with a broad brush, but in my experience, college football coaches are overly paranoid. They're paranoid about outside noise. They're paranoid about perception. They're paranoid about their time. They're paranoid about what kids might say and who's available to the media. They're just paranoid about a lot of stuff. And this sounds a little bit paranoid to me. I think it sounds a little ridiculous to suggest that a kid that scores a touchdown in the spring game over some walk-on is going to have a phone call from another program when he gets back to the apartment. Hey, got $150K for you, nice TD on ESPN today. Come with us. Like, that seems far-fetched to me. So I reached out to someone I know who's in college football right now, is on a staff. And I said, is this real? Like, are coaches actually looking at spring game tape to try to pillage the portal with tampering? And this coach said, no, I don't think that's it. What I think is a spring game with actual plays and not just kind of reps that practice looks like. Kids may see the depth chart a little bit more clearly in that game setting and think, oh, I am third team, I'm leaving. It's easier to cycle them in rep to rep in practice and kind of camouflage a quote-unquote depth chart as opposed to in a spring game where substitutions are a little bit more difficult. And and all of that seems paranoid to me too, but that actually made a little bit more sense to me when I thought about it. You have to try to guard against kids thinking they're third team, because if they're third team, they're leaving. And that may matter in some instances. It may not matter in other instances, but I kind of get it. Now, I don't care about the spring game. I've been to 15 spring games in Tiger Stadium. They're boring to me. It's a practice, a lot of walk-ons out there. The clock's running. You got, NFL guys on the sideline, doing interviews with the ESPN. You can't sack the quarterback. Like, it doesn't really do a ton for me. And I realize that I'm the guy who goes and watches baseball practice in October and enjoys that. It's just to each his own. And if you love the spring game, I'm not telling you don't go. In fact, do go. It's one football fix you can get in April. But I don't care if they cancel their spring games or not. That's fine with me. It humors me to hear college football coaches express their paranoia in different ways. But this one, I can see where they're coming from, because you're just trying to keep your roster intact the best you can. Do I think that Nebraska is going to be in a much better spot having not had a spring game? No. Do I have to, at this point, acknowledge the era we're in and that if somebody is the third left guard to go in the game, that he may quit? Maybe so. Maybe that's easier to camouflage in a workout in your practice facility behind closed doors. It's just a wild world that we live in, that you have to pay so much attention to so many things because of the rules that are in place. I've said this a million times. It does make being a college football coach hard. They make a lot of money, and I'm not saying that you have to, quote unquote, fix it all. I'm just telling you, I understand in evaluating this 12 months out of the year, like, there's a lot to deal with. There is a lot to deal with. So far, LSU is going to have their spring game, so we'll see you out there come April. That's it for hour number 1 here. Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. LSU and Omaha are going to play 3 games in the next 30 hours or so. We'll get you ready for all that after Sports Center. Come back with us. Happy Friday. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Need service now? Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you same-day appointments for service, and we offer pickup and delivery of your vehicle from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. If you need sales and service, the crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages, and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. ESPN has learned the Saints will hire former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley as the team's new defensive coordinator. The NHL regular season resumes tomorrow, and ESPN's Emily Kaplan reports several teams will be missing players after the Four Nations face-off.
I know going into this game last night that there were guys that were gutting through things that were pretty serious, and they are not going to be available for their teams this weekend. And I think everyone went under the general understanding that this was the risk, and this is why we hadn't played international hockey in so long.
Emily Kaplan on Clinton and Friends. Canucks goaltender Kevin Lankinen agrees to a 5-year, $22.5 million contract extension. Lankinen played for Finland at the Four Nations face-off. Nebraska opts out of a home-and-home football contract to play Tennessee in 2026 and 27. Nebraska will pay $1 million to get out of the deal. Athletic Director
I'm sure
Troy.
You can figure it out. Well, I don't know. I'm sure you can figure it out. Where I was playing a year ago.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming up Monday. Huge NBA weekend. Baseball is back, plus college basketball, and I'll react to it all in my Upon Further Review at 7 a.m. Eastern. It's on Sportsmanlike weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Last hour of the week here. Hope the work week's in the rearview mirror. If it's not, we'll get you to the finish line here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. The Athletics got a story out. The transfer portal class is under the most pressure in college football. We'll see if and where LSU's class ranks on that list coming up in 15 minutes. But LSU and Omaha are going to open a 3-game set coming up in 2 hours, a 4 o'clock first pitch from the box. It's just humorous that LSU's playing Omaha just because that's where you'd like to finish the season. I'm told that this might be a thank you for LSU being able to use Omaha's field to practice 2 years ago. I cannot confirm that, but it may be. Either way, it's LSU and Omaha, not LSU in Omaha this afternoon. They'll play 2 games tomorrow. For Omaha heads north. Omaha actually opened last weekend at Tulane. They played at Nichols on Tuesday, and then they finished their tour of Louisiana here with LSU this weekend. This is not a good Omaha team. We'll start with that, okay? They played Tulane last weekend, as I mentioned. They got swept. They gave up double-digit runs in every single game, and the pitching just got battered all over the yard. This Maverick staff gave up 32 runs on 32 hits. They gave up 20 walks in 3 games, and they hit 4 batters. And all that was only in 24 innings because Tulane never had to hit in the bottom of the 9th inning. So it was a team that didn't get any outs last weekend against Tulane. They were better on a cold Tuesday night in Thibodaux. They only gave up 2 runs to the Colonels. But still, they come into today's game with an ERA of 9.28 as a team, and a batting average against of 305, and that's against Tulane and Nichols. So LSU offensively should be raring and ready to go again. I am putting less stock into LSU's offensive numbers than to some of the things I'm seeing from the pitching staff. Because as we talked about on Monday, throwing strikes is throwing strikes. Sure, you can get more swing and miss against a bad team, but throwing strikes generally is throwing strikes. Velocity is velocity. Your pitchers throw 96 against Purdue Fort Wayne. They throw 96 against Tennessee. It is what it is. So there's more concrete stuff for me to take from the pitching staff than there is from the offense, which is bashing around 88-mile-an-hour fastballs. And you'll probably see more of that from the LSU offense this weekend because Omaha's pitching is bad. So not a lot of keys to the weekend for LSU's offense. Just keep swinging it good. More of what I'm looking for this weekend is a continuation on the staff of what we saw through the first 4 games. I'll start with the starting guys. The numbers were awesome. The stuff was awesome. Everything was good last week. One thing I did notice, and more so with Cade Anderson on Friday and then Chase Shores on Sunday, the velocity for both of those guys dipped in their 5th inning of work. Both completed 5 innings, but in that 5th inning, you saw those 98s and 96s from Shores dip to 93. You saw Anderson's 95s dip to 91. And that's completely natural in a season opening series. Completely natural. And it's a little chilly out there, so the high-end velocities may not get where they did today and tomorrow last week, but I'd like to see wherever they start holding it around 70 pitches. So if Anderson is not really 95 today, he's more 92, 93, what is he on pitch 70? And I'd like to see him throw close to 85 pitches. He threw 83 last week. I'd like to see 85 this week, and I'd like to see him hold that velocity. You're working towards league play. You're building up. Shores did not throw as many pitches. He only threw, let's see, I had that written down. He threw 67 last week. I'd like to see that closer to 80 this week. And I'd like to see the velocity. If he gets it up to 97, 98 like he did last week, great. If he does it and he's closer to 95 this week, then hold it at 95 as long as you can. I want to see those guys building up arm strength to hold their velocity. LSU may have the luxury when we get into March, April, May, June to go to their bullpen a little bit more quickly than usual. It's possible that LSU's got more bullpen arms they can trust than years past. It looks that way, but again, we can't tell playing Purdue Fort Wayne or Nebraska Omaha. Like, you can't quite tell. But if they do have the depth that we think they might, you won't need your starters to go 104 pitches. But usually, your best guys are in your weekend rotation, and you want your best guys out there. We'll see if that's the case, but just in case, I'd like to see LSU extend Shores, extend Ianson, extend Anderson, and have those guys hold their velocity a little bit better than last week. That's big for me. We still have not seen LSU in a high-leverage situation, and we may not this weekend. If the Omaha pitching is as bad as I think it is, and LSU scores 9, 10, 12, 16 runs every game, and LSU starting pitching is great like it was last week, and they don't allow any runs through 5 innings, well, you're not going to have any close games. But eventually in the non-conference, LSU is going to play a close game or two. I promise you that will happen. I don't know when, and I won't predict it, but it's going to happen eventually. I'd like to see who Jay Johnson goes to at that point. Does he go to Gavin Guidry, who hasn't pitched yet? Does he go to Connor Benj, who is a veteran? Does he go to Chandler Dorsey, who was a closer last year for South Florida? Does he go to one of those guys who's older, Connor Ware even? Or, based on what we saw last weekend from the freshman foursome, that's William Schmidt, Kaysen Evans, Maverick Rizzi, Cooper Williams, those guys, have they earned a shot at pitching a high-leverage spot? Keep in mind, those freshman pitchers last week, here's the total line score from 4 different freshman arms. 6 2/3 innings, no runs, 1 hit, 13 strikeouts, no walks. Again, 6 2/3 innings. So that's basically like a start. One start. If you started a game and you gave up no runs on 1 hit and 13 strikeouts with no walks, that's dominant stuff. And that's what LSU's freshmen did last week. Again, against a bad team, we understand the caveat. Back to the point. I think that these guys have a real shot at pitching in high leverage spots. And Jay Johnson has been adamant about that in his post-game press conferences and his media availabilities. Like, these dudes are good and they're ready to go. He was able last weekend to get them all a bit of a ramp up, as he called it, meaning you're pitching in a low leverage spot. You're pitching in a spot that allows for failure, not going to dictate the win or the loss. You've got a 9-run lead. You got a 7-run lead. You got a 12-run lead. You're in the 9th inning. He let those guys do that. Eventually, there's going to be a tight spot. Does he trust the youngsters to go in there, or are you going to get a more veteran arm? I tend to lean towards the more veteran arm. I usually bet with the chalk on stuff like that. But I'll be watching. I'll be curious to see how it all goes. You got thrown out on the bases a lot over the weekend. I don't think it was a big deal, but let's keep an eye on that this weekend. And then we'll keep an eye on the batting order as well and kind of how it shakes out. You're getting into a rhythm at the top with Stanfield and Curiel and Jones, and then against left-handers, Dickinson's, against a right-hander, maybe Jake Brown. And then you'll see a shuffle at catcher. You'll see the shuffle in right field and DH. And you're off and running. It should be another weekend that looks like last weekend. I mean, LSU to this point has got a 500 on-base percentage through 4 games. They're getting on base half the time. They're scoring 11.3 11.3 runs per game. And you're facing a bad pitching staff. So I don't anticipate LSU having a ton of problems. Offensively for Omaha, you've got a couple of guys who are returning, who are good players. Henry Zuppe and Jackson Trout are off to a good start and were starters for him last year. But frankly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Omaha. Spend a lot of time thinking about getting to Omaha. Not going to spend a lot of time on the Omaha Mavericks. I think LSU goes out this weekend, takes care of business. If you got off at 2 o'clock or you took off at 2 o'clock to go out to the box and watch and you missed this because you've been working on this Friday, Sunday's game has been rescheduled for this weekend. So LSU will play today at 4 o'clock. They will play tomorrow at noon. They will play tomorrow night at 5, and that'll be it for LSU in Omaha. Nothing scheduled on Sunday because inclement weather is expected. Nichols will come to the box on Monday evening for that game, and then LSU will travel on Tuesday to Dallas. They'll play in Arlington on Wednesday against Dallas Baptist. Then they'll go to Frisco for Friday, Saturday, Sunday in that Frisco Classic. So the schedule's a little bit wonky, but today it starts at 4 o'clock with LSU and Omaha from the box. Kate Anderson will get the baseball for LSU. I'll be out there, and I'll have a post-game story up this evening on LouisianaSports.net. That's your look at LSU baseball for the weekend. Come back and talk some football. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. You never even have to set foot on the lot to buy a Genesis at Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you're interested, start your process at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. You see something you like, you got great photographs, details of all the bells and whistles. And if you'd like to test drive it, you don't have to go to the store if you don't want to. One of the brand ambassadors will come to you. They'll come to the office. They'll come to the house. They'll get you behind the wheel, show you all the features of their luxury vehicles. And if you decide, hey, this is what's for me, they can do e-contracts. They can do digital delivery. And you never set foot on the lot. I know that turns a lot of folks off. Just avoid it. I would suggest you go to the lot because it's phenomenal facility, great team, great coffee maker, lots of snacks, great ambiance. And you can do it there. Or you can do it from the comfort of your own home. Genesis of Baton Rouge, happy to help you with all of that. Check them out online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Perish Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is Coach Kim Mulkey. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs.
From your hometown, parishbuilt.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
So the Athletics got a piece up. Antonio Morales wrote it, and it's titled, "Which college football transfer portal classes have the most on the line in 2025?" Now, that's subjective. Like, on the line, you could take that a lot of different ways. Are you trying to get to the playoff? Are you trying to win the national championship? You're trying to win your conference? You're trying to make sure your coach doesn't get fired? You're trying to take the next step as a program? There are a lot of different ways you could put that. So it's just a content thing at this time in the calendar year for college football. And I agree with like a lot of the team names on their face based on where the program is and where many expect it to be. Like, the first name on this list is Oklahoma. Okay, gotcha. Like, they came into the SEC, they went 2-6 in the league. That's a disaster. I remember distinctly having an Oklahoma writer on this show the day Oklahoma officially joined the league. I think it was July 1st. And he said something to the effect that Oklahoma had won the conference half the time over the last 18 years or something. But, like, think about that. Like, we've seen Saban, Urban Meyer, Spurrier. Like, no one wins the league half the time. And Oklahoma was doing that when it was Texas Tech and TCU and Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Tech. Like, we got it. You're in for a rude awakening from that perspective, but going 2-6 is probably not something they forecast. So I get it. Like, Brent Venables is very much on the hot seat. They got to get it figured out. I agree with Oklahoma being there. I absolutely agree with Auburn being there as well. In the first 2 years, Hugh Freeze is 11-14. Like, 11-14 in a transfer portal era where you're expected to get things fixed immediately is not nearly good enough. So, yeah, I get that one as well. Penn State got its quarterback back, was in the national semifinal. Okay, I got you. There's pressure there to get it done because you've got some pieces back. I'm with you there. Then you drop down to Arizona. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about Arizona's football team. I don't. But how much is really on the line at Arizona? I don't know, and I'm not going to read about it. Same thing goes for Virginia Tech. Brent Pry is 16-21 in 3 seasons at Virginia Tech. They went 6-7 last year. Like, I don't know that there's a lot on the line in Blacksburg. So I don't know that I agree with that a ton. Now, Florida State, yes, they're on this list as well. And I would suggest you've got a lot of work to do there because the bottom absolutely fell out. After an undefeated season where they unfortunately get left out of the playoff because Jordan Travis got hurt, you try to restock the cells with transfers as you lose Verse and Fisk and Coleman and Travis and that whole group at Florida State. Yeah, they got a lot on their plate to get fixed this year after being one of the worst teams in the Power 5 last year, if not the worst team, quite frankly. So, yeah, that one makes a ton of sense as well. And then you go to Arkansas. Well, that's a different thing than Auburn and Oklahoma altogether because nobody in Fayetteville is suggesting you better compete for the SEC championship. You better make the playoff. That's the anticipation at Oklahoma and Auburn, right or wrong. And Arkansas doesn't have that, but the longer they keep Sam Pittman, the more you're just delaying the inevitable because he's never going to accomplish anything of substance there. Nice guy, drinks some cold beers, loves it on the lake, had a nice start at Arkansas. Not going to have anything moving forward. So I don't know that I would necessarily put them as a lot on the line other than Sam Pittman losing his job, which, quite frankly, at his age, with his net worth, probably not the biggest thing in the world either. He wouldn't say that. I don't mean to speak for him, but I'm just kind of speaking on the outside there. Then they go to Cincinnati, pass on that. Texas Tech, they've got a lot of high-dollar transfers. We know that, but I don't think Texas Tech's got a ton on the line either. Maybe they could win the Big 12. I don't respect the Big 12, so I don't really care. But LSU's not on this list. That probably surprises you, and it certainly surprises me. Because when LSU hired Brian Kelly, that was a huge splash move. Texas A&M cried about the microscope they were under for years after they took Jimbo Fisher for Florida State. And I believe that same microscope has been shifted onto LSU now because of it's certainly on USC as well. When you hire Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma or Brian Kelly from Notre Dame, you're inviting a lot of eyeballs and a lot of expectation. And we all know that through 3 years, Brian Kelly has not met the expectation of those on the outside, whether that's the college football media, the national perspective, whether that's the people here in the fan base, or that's him. He did not sign up to go to the ReliaQuest Bowl and the Texas Bowl. That's not why he's here. So there's more to be done under a microscope in Baton Rouge. And I think the transfer portal class is vital to that. And I don't think you could argue otherwise. I mean, it's hard to speak in absolutes about a starting lineup for a football team in February when they're not taking the field again until, I think in this case, it's actually August. But in that first game, Labor Day weekend. But would you be stunned if Braylon Moore's not in the starting lineup at center? I would. Would you be stunned if Nick Anderson is not in the lineup at wide receiver? I would. Would you be stunned if Berrien Brown is not a big piece to this passing attack? I would. Would you be stunned if Bauer Sharp is not the primary blocking tight end? I would. I'd be stunned if Tamarcus Cooley didn't play in the secondary. I'd be stunned if Jack Pyburn didn't play a ton. I'd be stunned if Patrick Payton didn't immediately play on the first third down next year. I'd be stunned if Mansour Delane wasn't a starter in the secondary. I'm not even listing them all. I don't have Jamari Butler in this list. I don't have them all in here. I don't have Sydir Mitchell in this list. You've got wide receiver from Florida State, tackle from Northwestern. You've got guys that you brought in this transfer portal class that I haven't mentioned. But I did mention 8 guys that I would be stunned if they are not in the first drive against Clemson. Not to mention the fact that you've brought in a backup quarterback who may have to play at some point, who started in the SEC. So I realize this is not the end-all, be-all, and it's a content filler as a piece, but to have a piece about the transfer portal that has the biggest load to bear and the most on the line, quote-unquote, and to not include LSU, I think is probably incomplete. I'm not saying you got to take Arizona off the list and put LSU on there, but as far as expectations go, LSU's going to have monster expectations as a team. When we get to the SEC Media Days coming up in July, LSU will be picked in the top 4 of the league. And generally speaking, the top 4 are going to be right in the thick of a playoff mix, and because of that, are considered potential national championship threats. That'll be the discussion we have in July. And 8 or 9 or 10 guys on that team with expectations of doing things that are great. The coach has gone out and said, see you in the national championship. Didn't say this year, but said in general. And you've got that many guys in this transfer portal class that are tasked with making that happen. That's probably needs to be on the list. I'm sure the guys at Virginia Tech have got to work really hard. I'm sure Texas Tech is really going to get after it in Lubbock in August and hope to have a great season. But this is one of the biggest brands in college football, in collegiate athletics. This is one of the most famous coaches, for good or for bad, in the NCAA. And this is a transfer portal class that's going to be given a lot of responsibility on a team that's got to shoulder all of those burdens for all those people. It's a big, big deal. And I'm not telling you, the LSU fan, who's listening to this or watching this on YouTube or whatever the case may be, like, you already know that. I'm just saying, without diving into the depth chart there at Virginia Tech, I'd be surprised if there were this many high-end transfers, and I'd be surprised if the stakes at Virginia Tech in October of 2025 are as high as the stakes for LSU. So I don't know how you could qualify even more for this discussion. Doesn't matter. I'm not suggesting The Athletic hates LSU or this writer made a gross oversight. I just saw the headline of the article and very much expected LSU to be one of the first teams listed. And I scroll by and I go, Oklahoma, Auburn, Penn State, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Arkansas, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. That's 8 teams I just rattled off, and LSU didn't make the list. Surprised me. I don't know if it would have surprised you. Some of those have really good reasons for them. Hugh Freeze better get it in gear. That's a lot to deal with. But LSU's transfer portal class better be really good, or our conversations in August are not going to sound like our conversations in December. It's the way that I see it. If you're looking for our LSU football content, you can always find it at Hunt on LSU. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it wherever you find your podcasts. Hunt on LSU, all football, all the time. So if you're not a baseball guy or gal, if you don't love LSU basketball and are ready to turn the page on that, and you want your football all year round, Hunt on LSU has got you covered. We also got you covered on LouisianaSports.net. All right, let's take a timeout. 30 minutes to go, a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioneer Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
I got 30 more minutes to go here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp, clean, crispy fried catfish, jumbo Gulf shrimp, those crispy shoestring fries as well. They got your hush puppies, your coleslaw, crawfish etouffee, awesome baked potatoes over there at Corks. You can get the baked potato and then cover it with crawfish etouffee and the golden brown shrimp. It's real, real good stuff. Swing on by the drive-thru right there, Government Foster and Jefferson, or you can go into that renovated dining room and eat as well. And I tell you this, each and every week, if you've got a tailgate, you got a birthday party, if you want to feed the office lunch on a Friday or whatever the case may be, if you're feeding a lot of people, Corks can help you with all that. Mardi Gras parades very much included. You want to have some grub for a lot of folks, Corks can always help you out with that. Big trays. They got all the pricing at corksfishandshrimp.com. Just give them a little bit of notice and they can have it all ready for you there at Corks. This is a big picture segment here. I don't know that there's a defined point that I'm making here, but I'm just interested in the big picture of college football as we continue to evolve. Nebraska has nixed a home and home with Tennessee. The reason that is being given from Nebraska, who was responsible, this was not mutual, is that they're about to do a big renovation of Memorial Stadium, and they want to have all of their home games in 2027 to help offset the cost. They were going to go, Tennessee was going to play in Nebraska in 26, and then Nebraska would go to Tennessee in 27, which would take away a home game. It's a non-conference game. You wouldn't be playing at home. They want a home game. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Maybe it's that they're trying to dodge Tennessee to try to make the playoff. Maybe they're trying to recoup funds for a stadium renovation. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. But it makes me think about these big-time matchups. And clearly LSU's going to Clemson this year. And clearly LSU has dipped its toe in that water and has played USC and has played Wisconsin and has played Florida State twice. It's got Clemson coming up twice. It's played UCLA. And LSU has done this annually. And you're required as an SEC team to play a big-time non-conference game, but you could just as easily pick up the phone and call Wake Forest or Northwestern as you can Southern Cal or Florida State. And we all thought that when the playoff expanded to 12 teams and we thought 10-2 was good enough to get into an SEC team, it stood to reason that we would all look up and go, okay, you're not just absolutely crippled for a loss anymore. More schools are going to schedule these big games. And then we had all that discussion in December because Indiana got in playing nobody that, well, strength of schedule really doesn't matter. It's just how many games you lose. And statistically speaking, you're less likely to lose if you schedule North Texas instead of Texas. So you had, and it wasn't like a behind closed doors thing. This is actual athletic directors on the record talking to reporters saying, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to test ourselves. And y'all know my standing on all of this. Just tell me what the rules are, and then I'll figure out the best way for LSU to compete for championships. And y'all know my stance on this as well. I would rather play Elon than Clemson on Labor Day. And I feel like this is a complete gas ballpark. In the Bayou Ford chat, if you want to tell me I'm an idiot, I am open to that on this Friday. Always there. But I feel like 60% probably are with me at this point. Like, why would you give yourself, because of what LSU has done to itself the last 5 years in losing the opener, I think most people have changed their tune and gone, yeah, probably don't need to do that anymore. Not a great idea. Be just fine if we do what Georgia did 2 years ago. It was on accident because the Oklahoma game got canceled. They didn't play anybody. Be better if we just took the win. Now, there are still, I think, 40% of y'all who are completely within your rights and your opinion to say, no, give me Clemson, give me Florida State, just get better and win the game, which is clearly the way LSU's scheduling department thinks. Clearly. And nobody's right or wrong. It's just your feeling. When it comes to LSU, give me the win. I think your conference record is going to stand up and it's going to be good enough to make the tournament if you are 6-2 in the league, just like Tennessee did last year. Who'd Tennessee beat? NC State? I'll play them. Fine. There are plenty of teams I'll play. I'll play TCU. I'll play Kansas. I'll play Texas Tech. I'll play Duke. Bring on Boston College. I'll take Minnesota. Give me all those teams. I'm fine. If you've made me in charge, I'm not scheduling Ohio State. I'm not scheduling Southern Cal. I'm not scheduling Georgia. I'm not scheduling Michigan. That's me. And you can say you're a beta and you're scared and that's no way to run anything, and that's fine. But I'm one of those that would rather open the door to get in the next room than try to run through the wall. And I feel like a lot of athletic directors are going to start to think that way based on these decisions. Now, the one thing that I will say about all this is that we had a bit of an anomaly this year in that the teams that were what I would consider good enough to make the playoff, and I'm specifically speaking about Ole Miss and Alabama in this instance, lost freakish games. I believe Alabama beats Vanderbilt in Nashville 9 out of 10. They lost. I believe Ole Miss beats Kentucky in Oxford 9 out of 10, and they lost. And if either one of those two results is reversed, we have a different discussion. And this is what I said in December when it happened. I think that Ole Miss is better than Indiana. I think that Alabama is better than Indiana. I can't back it up. Nothing. I can't do that. But I believe it. But I cannot sympathize with them because you lost games to teams you cannot lose to and be taken seriously when you get to the debate table. And Indiana didn't lose any of those games. They didn't beat anybody. And Ole Miss beat Georgia. Bama beat Georgia, which is something Indiana can't say. But you can't lose to Vandy. Kentucky won one league game last year, and it was in Oxford. Sorry, you got no leg to stand on. And I don't think that's going to happen every year. I don't think the teams that we consider playoff good are going to consistently throw up on themselves against the dregs of the league. I don't believe annually that Ohio State is going to lose to Minnesota. I don't think that Alabama is going to make a habit of losing to Vandy. I don't think the good Clemson or Florida State teams are going to consistently drop one to Boston College every year. I think we got a bit of an anomaly. And that's the thing. We're kind of flying in this new era where we don't really know what the discussion is going to look like at the end.
Well, and I was going to say that you think last year was an anomaly, but do you not think that this could become a trend of just the way that college football is going to evolve with this new era of NIL and transfer portal?
I don't think consistently that Ole Miss is going to lose to Kentucky and Alabama is going to lose to Vanderbilt. And okay. I'm using them not as their actual program. The teams that teams that we think in August have NFL dudes and should make the playoff. I think more often those teams are going to do what Tennessee did and lose the game to Georgia. Okay, we stubbed our toe in Norman. Well, they were fine. We won the rest of them. And Ole Miss, okay, they lost in Tiger Stadium. They lost. What was their other loss? I'm trying to run through.
Ole Miss?
Yeah, they lost to LSU and
it was a bad one. It was
Florida,
yeah.
It was pretty good at the end there, but still, yeah, it's not good. So look, and that's you don't have a leg to stand on when you do that. So I'm curious to see how athletic directors do this, and that was kind of the genesis of this whole segment. Is like, okay, are you gonna just decide we're not stepping out, or are you gonna decide to keep scheduling or continue to schedule these big time games? I don't think you're gonna see a massive shift, but if you did, it wouldn't blow me away. I don't think LSU's stepping back because I know who's in charge over there, and his outlook is very, very clear. We're going to keep scheduling big-time games on national TV with huge paydays, and our football program's job is to win them. And there are probably a lot of people that agree with that. I'll continue to call Wake Forest and Minnesota, and I'm not going to necessarily be quick to take a trip to Clemson. But that's just me. We'll see. I think I'm now in the majority. I can promise you 5 years ago I was in the very much minority. I believe now I'm in the majority because LSU's lost 5 of these in a row. So, just my thoughts. We're about to wrap things up. One more segment to go. Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Nothing more important than your home security, your house, your family. For the Palmers, we trust Mitchell Fisher and Audio Video Security Solutions with all of that. It was such an easy process. We called Mitchell, said, hey, can you meet us out here in the afternoon? The next day, he was at our house. So this is what we want to do. Here's our budget. We want cameras. We want burglar alarms. He said, okay. So we scouted out where to put the cameras. 2 days later, Mitchell came out. He had all the equipment. We didn't buy any of it. We didn't hand any of it. He had it all. Part of the deal. He set up cameras front door, back door, set up the burglar alarm as well, downloaded the app on our phone, showed us how to use it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can look at my front door and my back door with a crystal clear picture on my phone. I can pause, I can zoom in, I can rewind, all that without paying any cloud storage fees. I can arm my alarm remotely. I can disarm it remotely. It's been very, very convenient, and the customer service has been fantastic. If you haven't given a lot of thought to cameras or a burglar alarm at your home, but you'd like to look into that, check them out online at avssla.com. The website is right there. The phone number is right at the top right. You can contact Mitchell Fisher directly, and he'll be your point person to take care of your job. It's audio video security solutions. Find them online at avssla.com.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
.045 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win free car washes from Benny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our LouisianaSports.net daily newsletter. To sign up, visit 1045ESPN.com, and 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge is your home for the New Orleans Pelicans. Tune in as the Pels hit the road to face the Mavericks tonight at 7:30, and then return home to host the Spurs on Sunday at 6 and Tuesday at 7. Pelicans coverage is brought to you locally by Industry Makes.
Pels playing the Mavericks. Tigers also playing the Mavericks. The Omaha Mavericks and LSU just over an hour from right now. We got the lineup in. I'll get that to you briefly here. It's Chris Stanfield to lead off in center field, as expected. Derek Curiel going to play left field and hit second, as expected. Jared Jones, the first baseman, in the 3 spot, as expected. Ashton Larson is going to hit cleanup behind Jared Jones. I like that spot for Ashton, who swung a hot bat early in the season. Daniel Dickinson will hit 5th. He is the second baseman. Stephen Milam will hit 6th at shortstop. Michael Braswell, the third baseman, will hit 7th. Jake Brown's in right field. He will hit 8th. And then Luis Hernandez will catch and hit 9th. This is the second consecutive week that Luis Hernandez has caught Cade Anderson. That's something I'm also going to be looking at this week. What catchers catch what pitchers, and do we see that back-to-back weeks? It's sometimes difficult to track, but I've got box scores. We can make it work. I do know that Luis Hernandez started the game last Friday. He's starting today for Cade Anderson. So the only real change here is that Ashton Larson is in the lineup in the 4 spot as a designated hitter. Everything else pretty much the same. The guys that are sitting today would be Ethan Fry and, of course, Josh Pearson. So that's a look at your lineup. LSU and Omaha at 4 o'clock. If you missed this earlier today, no game on Sunday between LSU and Omaha. They will play 2 games tomorrow. The first game of the doubleheader will be at noon. Second game of the doubleheader will be at 5 o'clock, same time that LSU and Florida tip off from the PMAC tomorrow. LSU against the number 2 Gators. So that'll get you kind of caught up on housekeeping there. We got one thing to do this week, and that's take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it. All right, first one here. ESPN is ending its relationship with Major League Baseball. No more Sunday Night Baseball. Take it or leave it.
I'm leaving it. That's
leave it alone.
You know, Baseball Tonight, such a huge part of my childhood. And they squashed that because apparently nobody wants to watch that anymore. And now they're not going to have Sunday Night Baseball. And I used to look forward to the few, they probably about 4 a year that the Cubs would play on Sunday Night Baseball, and that was always a real
how
treat.
Good they were.
Yeah, and look, the players hate Sunday Night Baseball because it puts you behind the 8 ball as far as travel for the rest of the week. But I always enjoyed it, and so that's a bummer. It's just another indication of how regional baseball has become at the top level, and it just is what it is, and ESPN wants to look elsewhere. So no baseball on Sunday nights, which sucks.
All right, next one here. The third period of the Four Nations Cup final between the U.S. and Canada. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. I watched it. Nobody scored, so that wasn't great, and they went to overtime, and I do think overtime hockey's phenomenal, but I wasn't going to stay up for it, so I turned the TV off, and as I told you off the air, had a text in the group text this morning that said McKay's boy Connor McDavid got it done. And when I read that text, I did not know who won. I know who Connor McDavid is. I think he plays for the Oilers.
That is correct.
But I don't know if he's from America or Canada, so I didn't even know if we won or not.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
The Canadians got us.
The Canucks
Darn
got
you,
us.
Canucks.
Yep, they got us.
Unbelievable. Thought we had them. Didn't have them.
No, we didn't. All right, next one. The Yankees will allow well-groomed beards, quote, moving forward from a statement from Hal Steinbrenner. Yankee players with beards. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
You know, I respect dress codes and
of course you're a man of many standards
of consequence for an employer. But their baseball players are playing baseball. A lot of baseball players have beards and mustaches. That's just fine. The Yankees can get on board with that. I don't want them to change their iconic uniforms and kind of the way they do that. I think the aura that is the Yankees is awesome. But I think that they can let guys grow their facial hair. I think that'll be just fine. So that's cool.
All right, next one here. The Cubs, Hunt, they're playing in a spring training game right now. I don't know if you know this. They won.
The Dodgers.
They beat the Dodgers yesterday.
They need to beat the Dodgers in Japan.
Let's beat them in Japan. Yeah, that's when it really counts. But had most of the starters in the game today so far. Ian Happ 1 for 1 with a single. Dansby, Suzuki, PCA, Miguel Maya, all 0 for. But Jordan Wicks, 2 innings, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts, no walks, no runs. Jordan Wicks, 20 starts or over and under 20 starts. Take it or leave it.
I would go under that. I would leave it.
Leave it alone.
I think that they'll have other guys that'll work their way towards that. He'll
started 11 last year.
He did. We'll see.
He's still young, so.
He is. I like him. Kansas State boy, first-round pick. But yeah, it's good to see the guys out there in action in spring training. That makes me a happy guy. It means we're progressing towards warmer weather, which we got to get because this is not going to get it done.
Yeah,
in the 40s is no good. I can't have it. I was checking out at Rouse's on Tuesday, and somebody said, "Are you enjoying the weather that's coming this week?" And I was like, "No, I'd be
Why
happy
would
if it was
you?
75. I
Why
don't
would
need
you
it to
enjoy
be
it?
29 when I wake up and try to get out of the house.
I don't think anyone.
I appreciate her being nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
But I wasn't going to lie to her. No, I don't appreciate this weather at all.
Yeah, I don't even think. I guess I don't know for sure, but I don't even think people that live usually in 29-degree weather probably enjoy it very much.
She told me that she likes to get on the couch with a cup of coffee on a blanket. I said,
that's
you
fine.
can do that in July.
Yeah, just turn the AC down.
You don't even have to turn the AC down. It's just live in your 68-degree house.
You could.
71-degree house. Whatever you live in, it's the same. It's the same in July as it is in February. That's the point of the air conditioning. So, I don't like the weather.
It's getting better though. I think we're turning the corner here this weekend.
I'm heading to the box, which I'm excited about, but I'm not going to be able to put the window down in the press box because it's
gonna
too
be
cold.
too chilly.
The wind will be blowing. I have a jacket, but I don't need cold hands.
No.
So I'm gonna have to feel like I'm cooped up inside.
And no Coke Zeros, most likely. I think
There won't be any Coke Zeros
unless you've
there.
gotten one to Mr. Frank has about
No,
it.
I haven't. I may sneak around the corner to the broadcast booth and see if Chris and Doug have restocked, but they didn't have any last weekend. So look,
man, this is a hard time for you, Hunter.
I'm a beggar, and look, I'm a chooser, and I choose Coke Zero, and it's not available, so it's very difficult for me. We're gonna make it through 9 innings, and then I'll write a story about it at LouisianaSports.net, which you can read on LouisianaSports.net. That's it for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Open the show today talking about the Saints' new coordinators. Those are in place. Gave my opinions on all that. Preston Guy talking LSU football at 1:15. Previewed LSU in Florida and Hoops. It didn't look great. You can go check that out at Hoops with Hunt, wherever you find your sound. Canceled spring games. Is that going to happen a little bit more? And then some baseball preview and some football as well in the second hour. Find that wherever you find your podcasts on demand. We're done. Matt's going to drive you home. We're back same time, same place on Monday. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary.